Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynic Alex, and today we are back again with the APK, this time taking a look at Professor X for the first time. I want to dive into one of the new characters. He's very interesting. He's got some new abilities, and he's also designed in a way that makes me feel like he could have a future in the sense of uniforms or upgrades of some kind. So we'll talk about that as well, but of course, standard disclaimer, this is brought to you by the Star Agent program. This is an APK, so it's not the final build. However, let's take a look at what I've done for Professor X so far. I've slapped on Power of Angry Hulk Stage 8. No obelisk yet. Obviously, no uniform. I'm not going to show you his Tier 3 animation. And then everything else is pretty straightforward. We leveled up some of his skills, and we'll get into a deep dive of his skills in a second. We've only given him... He already Tier 3, so his gears are already 25. But we've only given him a little bit of ignored defense, and we've rolled skill cooldown here on Cerebro Helmet, so that we can cap out 49.8 on the ignore defense, 50% of the cooldown, and then just whatever else on the other stats. Now, we're not taking advantage of his leadership right now. We got Nimrod here with a couple of friends. So these are what his stats look like. 28,000 energy attack, 34,000 HP. If you guys want a comparison, now this comparison is not worth much, but I know people are going to be curious where he stacks up compared to other blast types. So the first thing you want to notice is that Professor X is a blast type, but he is a tier 1. He doesn't have that little tier 2 thing on the upper left-hand corner of the blast icon, which means from the Danger Room, like Negasonic, like Rachel Summers, he will be tier 1, which should mean that he costs 800 CCF to tier 3. So he won't be expensive like Apocalypse. He won't be like 1.5 times cost like Doctor Strange or Quicksilver. He will be the same price as someone like Magneto or Sharon Rogers. So how does he stack up, at least as far as the base stats are concerned? Well, as far as the base stats are concerned, his energy attack is actually on the high end for most 800 CCF blast types, but I have to say his HP is very low. So you can sort of think of Professor X as a glass cannon. Now, there's a lot more that goes into being a glass cannon in Marvel Future Fight than just your HP, but HP is an important factor because it can only go so high with gear and ISO and Uru and stuff like that. So the HP is definitely a concern, but of course, you know, immunity, invincibility, debuffs, self-healing, revive, iframes, all of those things will help bolster even the most fragile of characters. So yeah, if we take a look there, 13 and 22, if we compare him now very briefly to someone like Sharon, nope, not her, he's definitely not in her league, but if we compare him to someone like Sharon Rogers, you can see very comparable energy attack stat, but actually lower HP stat than Sharon Rogers. He is a little bit, if we compare him to Magneto, he's a little bit ahead of Magneto on all fronts, so you can think of it that way. But then if you compare him to someone like Jean Grey, he's, you know, a couple thousand below on the energy attack, and he is like half of her HP stat, which is bonkers. Bonkers. But that's just the way it is for the guy who trains Jean Grey, I guess. I guess that's all you get. When you train Jean Grey, you get half her HP. Sure, buddy. Whatever it takes. Sure. So, what does Professor X get? Well, here's what we got. We got a pretty lackluster, I have to say, pretty lackluster tier 2 passive. Mind damage 20% is okay. And then skill damage, bonus damage seems very low. So that leads me to believe, again, we haven't done testing yet, but that leads me to believe that he's got really high damage on his skills, because this seems to be like you're scared of putting your whole foot in the water, so you just put in one toe to test the temperature. That's the feeling that I'm getting. I haven't seen numbers, like I don't think any character has a number as low as 5%. What's the point of 5%, right? So either they screwed up or he's a powerhouse and he hits like a truck. So we'll see. And then we have his other passive, his 4-star passive, Mental Master. This one is even more boring. 90% chance to become immune to mind damage. Man, this is uninspired. It's uninspired for 2 reasons. One, you would think that Professor X would be 100% immune to mind damage all the time, not 90% chance, okay? For 2, pretty much every character has access to immunity penetration via their skills, buffs, tier 3 skills, or a CTP of destruction. So this really is meaningless. So I'm not sure who on the dev team thought this was a good idea. This was cute in like 2016. This is basically meaningless in 2020. You know, one of the strongest characters in the game that deals mind damage, Jean Grey, you know, they changed all of her skills except for number 2 to mind damage, so that 90% immunity is really good, right? Oh my god, like, are you saying that Professor X can ignore or become immune to 90% of the damage from Jean Grey's skills? Yes, unless she does her 5th skill. Once she does her 5th skill, she'll have an 80% chance to penetrate his 90%, which basically means that he's dead in the water. So yeah, and Jean Grey is not the only character that has penetration chance that high. There are some characters that were introduced in 2017 that have native penetration on all of their skills, like Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, Cable, and then in 2018, Strife. So yeah, whoever made this is obviously still living in 2016 or 2015. So I would love for those devs to please join us in 2020. It's kind of scary. We got coronavirus, Kobe passed. It's been a rough year, but you're gonna have to get with it if you're gonna keep making updates for Marvel Future Fight, because stuff like this is a humongous waste of time, and it really shows your lack of understanding of where the game has evolved to. Like, the game has basically passed you by. You're a dinosaur if you think that this is a good passive. Anyways, moving on. Unless there's something I'm missing. Unless there's something I'm missing here about... Let me just say this. Unless there's something I'm missing here about Professor X where you can't penetrate this immunity, then it's godly. But my impression is that it's not very good. So I'm just going to say that. And then his leadership gives all mutant allies 20% attack and 50% mind resistance. Now, the 50% mind resistance is meta for some PvP battles, and it's sort of meta, but what I actually meant to say was it's actually thematic, very thematic. But the 20% all attack is quite low. I mean, Kitty Pryde gives 65%, Magneto gives 45%. Sure, Professor X is a bit of a pacifist. He's a bit of a, peace first type, Gandhi type guy. He doesn't want, well, not in House of X, but before that. So I'm not sure what they're reading. But yeah, seeing these passives, seeing this sort of like uninspired, like just whatever, like numbers that we, got from a dartboard competition, it makes me feel like they already have plans to beef him up, beef up his leadership, beef up his passives with the uniform in the future. As far as the skills go, I'll show you the skills in battle, but I actually want to point out that they all have this decreased Mind Blast and Mind Resist. Now, we know what Mind Resist is. It's Mind Resistance, and you can see here he has 10% Mind Resistance as part of his Mind Resist ability. And of course, famously or infamously, Jean Grey has 130% Mind Resistance. That's right, folks. If 100% wasn't enough, she actually goes all the way up to 130%. So there is that, but I have no idea what Mind Blast is, and he has it on every single skill. Decreases Mind Blast and Mind Resistance. He also has some other effects that we haven't seen before. It also says over here in his character usage tips that he has Disable Skills and the Fear effect that applies to nearby enemies while using Mind over Matter. I have not seen the Disable Skill effect. I don't know what it does. Obviously, by the name, it sounds like it disables skills, but because we can't play PvP, it's very hard to test this. I imagine it's going to work something like the Disable Skill in Danger Room, but we don't know how that will actually function in-game. So we're actually going to start off sending Professor X up against Thanos, because I want to see if any of Professor X's skills will penetrate Thanos's debuff immunity, because Thanos is the only world boss that has debuff immunity. Okay, so it doesn't penetrate anything there. I was just curious to see how the interaction is. We want to see his damage, of course. It's always hard to test out damage on APKs anyways, but we'll see here how the tier 3 looks. Nice. Oh, okay, so okay. So he seems really stuck. Okay, wow. So something happened there. Oh, the little blue light. So something happened there. Professor X doesn't have Charm or Entice. Normally, the only way to get Thanos to skip those phases where he summons Corvus and Proxima, the only way is to entice him. Like, Mind Control won't force him to stop those animations. So it's a bit interesting that I was able to do that. Okay, maybe that's what Mind Blast is. Okay. Let's see if we can do something here with the tier 3. We might just be dead. Okay, so yeah, we can't interrupt him now. It seems like the tier 3 continues, which is nice. Man, the animations are beautiful. They fill up the whole screen. He doesn't seem to have, iframe ignore or anything really spicy like that. Not a lot of hits on... Whoa, 3 seems to have a nice big burst of damage. He's moving around a lot. He's very mobile for Professor X. But we aren't able to. Okay, now we're not able to interrupt him. Oh. Ooh. He's a bit sneaky, eh? Oh, take some damage there. He seems a bit tanky though. We're gonna get. Oh, we didn't get debuffed. Interesting. 3 seems to have some really nice damage. Interesting. But I'm just not sure what his. I'm not sure what this Mind Blast thing is. It doesn't seem to interact with debuff, but it seemed to have some kind of effect on. It had some kind of effect on Thanos to where he was kind of just frozen, and he seemed to be stunned. It looked like a prolonged stun. But man, this 5th skill is beautiful. This 3rd skill is just delicious. Lots of iframes. I got a hit there. Seems to be some decent damage. Seems to charge up his tier 3 pretty fast. Oh, I think we're dead here. He's pretty fast too. It seems like you can cancel a lot of his skills, and he's able to. He just kind of squirms away. Okay, let's see what else. Let's see what he does with some other content. Now we're gonna test him out against the stage 25 Cull Obsidian. We want to see if he can keep Cull Obsidian locked down the entire time. Maybe this. Can I auto attack him? Maybe this Mind Blast has something to do with like stacking abilities. I'm really not sure. But it seems like maybe we can keep him locked down. We have the SFX on, so we're going to be enduring that animation the whole time. But this could be a big one for Cull Obsidian. Now, World Boss has kind of been made a bit trivialized by certain striker combinations as far as damage goes. So I wouldn't stress too much about his damage because, you know, pretty much any character can become a lot harder hitting once you give them 100% all defense down. Now we can see there we got those 2 animations bouncing back and forth. One of them is this Mind Blast icon, this Mind Flash or Mind Blast. But yeah, you can see here that I'm just like completely locking him down. He looks to be stunned in some sort of way. You can see there he's got the anxiety. He's worried about the rewards from the in-stream. He's worried about the in-stream rewards on Facebook. Cull Obsidian's really having a hard time right now. Let's see if we can interrupt him out of this. So this may just be a variation on something like Time Freeze. Yep, he got interrupted out of that. Seems like his tier 3 also continues. I don't know if the damage continues, but the animation surely continues. And you can almost keep him locked down indefinitely. So I don't know if it's like some sort of stacking skill effect where, you know, using it multiple times enhances its effect, or if it has some sort of damage stacking effect like Jubilee's Plasmosis or whatever it's called, that she does with her kind of firework-like skills. But yeah, he's done. He hasn't moved much. I mean, you really do expect this from Professor X, right? This makes sense. He's gonna lock you down because he's got control over your mind. I mean, was it the first or the second X-Men movie where he stops all of the cops outside, and then Magneto turns their guns on them? Or no, he doesn't. You know what? He stops. No, that's not true. Magneto turns their guns on him, and then Professor X just mind controls Sabretooth, and Sabretooth is choking Magneto. Oh man, such a good scene. Last but not least, I just want to have a little bit of fun with Professor X in sort of an arcade game mode that is not squad battle, because I want to save that for a different video. I also want to see how he's going to... He does silence the Frost Beast. I want to see how he interacts with the Frost Beast, because I think a lot of people are going to be curious with this. We see the Mind Resist decrease. Okay, we see the tier 3 skill going here, racking up a lot of points. Wow, this is no proc, by the way. Not a single damage proc at all. And he is doing pretty well. It's an iframe right at the beginning of the skill, and then it's nothing. It'll be interesting to see what this Mind Blast does. We could be overblowing it and just, you know, it could be nothing. But if it's something, who knows? It could ignore immunity and be really powerful. It could be a way of having a different kind of interaction with the boss. We'll have to see, but man, his skills are beautiful. That's one of the things, balancing the opinion of the character aesthetically. I mean, Professor X looks gorgeous. He doesn't seem to be interacting differently. So the Frost Beast, the reason why I brought him into ABX is the Frost Beast actually has some kind of debuff mechanic where buffs don't last very long. You can only stack a buff for a few seconds before it dissipates, and that's been that way for a long time. So I was curious to see if the Mind Blast would be any different, and it doesn't seem to be any different, which is, you know, maybe an indicator that it's not as OP as we think, but who knows, it might be. But you can see the AoE on his skills. Obviously, you can't really appreciate AoE in World Boss when you're fighting against one person, but the AoE on Professor X's skills seems perfect for something like Squad Battle and maybe something like Alliance Conquest, because he's going to hit everything. He hits the whole arena. You see this like crippling lockdown, and the damage is not bad at all. He may have some issue actually silencing the Frost Beast, which hopefully will be addressed in the update and will be removed entirely. If you're the type of player that doesn't like to run thousands of times with Cable and Captain Marvel and possibly Apocalypse to try and get that silence to land. Some players like it. I don't know. I think it should either be all effects or none of them, rather than just one of them. But that's just my opinion. But yeah, he's doing pretty well right now. 1 million with no obelisk for a tier 3. He does have the leadership ability, so he takes full advantage of this team up with White Fox and Nick Fury, which is nice. I think a lot of people were hoping or expecting that Professor X would have a self-buffing leadership that was as good or better than Nick Fury's, but no, nobody beats the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. apparently. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. I mean, aesthetically, is this one of the most beautiful characters we've ever seen? I could get used to this. I really could. But in terms of functionality, we definitely need more information on what Mind Blast is and what its intended uses are. And of course, we need a reset button for ABX. This is another thing I wanted to test in this video. There is no reset button, at least right now, for ABX, which is a damn shame. So many easy quality of life changes that could be done, increasing the inventory, etc. We'll make a video about it, but it doesn't seem to be here right now. So yeah, hit me up with your thoughts on Professor X. Is he going to be meta for PvE, PvP, both, or neither? Thank you so much for watching. Let me know who you want to see next, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.